Okay. So today we are going to be talking about visibility. That's the only thing left on the Trello. And if anyone has any other suggestions, if you want these streams to continue, um, definitely let me know. But right now, all we have left on the Trello for this is visibility. So what visibility is basically how or what clients rather will not only see the renderers on objects but get updates to them. So visibility is important for several reasons. It can be used to deter hacking. It can be used to save CPU and GPU performance on client because they're not necessarily showing a render that's way off in the distance. And um, of course, I guess it saves bandwidth on the server as well. Yeah, exactly like proximity checker. That is one option of a visibility checker, and that's probably the one I'm going to be demonstrating. I will be talking about a good portion of them though. So why the reason it can save bandwidth on the server is because you're only sending updates to clients that are within the visibility parameters, basically meaning those clients can get the updates. So that's going to probably save you money, and it's also going to save you probably a little bit of CPU, a very small amount, I imagine, but overall, it's an easy efficiency and it's good. Why it saves performance on the client is because obviously, if you're not receiving draw calls for things way in the distance, you're naturally saving performance. So that's kind of that's a given. Now, the reason it can deter hacking is because you can update visibility so clients can't see objects that they shouldn't be seeing. So, for example, let's say if you're making a shooter game and there's no way a client can see a player that's behind two walls, you simply won't send updates to that client for the player behind those walls, and that way they don't know where that player is moving around and whatnot. So that's a good way for it to deter hacking. Now let's just jump right in and let's go ahead and show you how to use visibility. So the first thing I need to do is just go to my gameplay scene. I haven't been on this project for a little bit, or I haven't done a stream, I guess, for a little bit. So I'm trying to catch up here. Last thing we did, it looks like, was pets. And it looks like you could pick up the pet from the scene and then the pet would attack your enemies. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add, this is going to be so easy. We're going to add a proximity checker, which, there we go, network proximity checker to the pet. And we're going to set the range to, let's go with 8. So basically what that means is that until a player object is within 8 units of this object, they won't see it and they won't get updates about it. Now, the interval for the network proximity checker is simply how frequently it will check for nearby players. The network proximity checker is okay. It's not the most efficient thing in the world. I do have a variant called fast proximity checker that updates in real time, and it's way more performant. So basically it updates near instantly whenever you move in range. That's just an option if you're my supporters. I also want to mention that Mirror has, oh, you can't see the, oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Let me fix that. It's probably my resolution, so give me 1 second. All right, so I'm back. It was my resolution. Thank you very much for telling me. So I added the network proximity checker to the pet here, and that's all you really miss is that I just added the proximity checker to it. So what you, now as I was saying, there is a new component by Mirror. It's on the Git. It's not yet live on the store, and let me actually see what it's called because it's, like I said, it's not live, so I don't remember exactly what it's called. They are calling it distance Nope, sorry. They're calling spatial hashing. That's the new faster one. And there's not really any information on it, so I'm not going to cover it just yet. I've also heard reports that there might be some issues with it. I can't validate that. I don't know for sure. But there's no info on it, and I don't know the reliability of it, so I'm not going to cover it just yet. Now, with that said, we got the network proximity checker. I just explained how it worked, and my mouse just disappeared. There we go. So let's go ahead and test it out. I'm going to do a really quick build here. All right, so I'm going to move this over. I'm going to hit play. This is going to be the server, and I'm going to join the editor as client. I don't know which way I'm looking. Here we go. So you can see that the pet is disabled, but it's definitely there, but it's just disabled. So I'm going to move in range of it. And it's not working. Okay, I guess I just wasn't close enough. I guess the visibility range wasn't close enough. So that's possibly all that was, although I kind of feel like it only showed me the pet because I gained ownership of it. I'm going to recheck this real quick because this just doesn't seem right. So I'm going to hit stop, and then I'm going to stop my server, and I'm going to change the range on it to something crazy like 50. Then I'm going to go ahead and rebuild. Another thing about the proximity checker is, this is something I did forget to mention, is you have the force hidden option, and that basically means that it won't be visible to anybody except the owning player, and of course the server still has it. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. If that's why I'm wondering if maybe it only happened because I got ownership of it, because when you do gain ownership of something with a proximity checker or any visibility checker, you only see it when that happens. All right, so all it was is that I essentially was not in range of it. I know why that happened, I think. Actually, I'm not sure why that happened, because if you look at the, how big is the Spirit Collider? Yeah, so the Spirit Collider is only 4 units, and I had this set to 8 units. Therefore, it should have given me visibility right about here. So I'm wondering if that's something going on with the mirror component, or if maybe I'm just overlooking something silly, but it should have popped up visibility right about there. It is, however, still working nonetheless. You can see that when I came in range, it appeared. Right now it's at 50 units, so that's like an insane amount. So it's not going to disappear for a while. If I move my character back way further, let me just go ahead and drag him way back. Player clone. Okay, well, it's being really weird. I'm wondering if they did something to it that they shouldn't have. Regardless, there's mine. Mine works. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's the gist of it. You got the idea. Does anyone have any questions? Because that didn't exactly go as I planned. I don't know if it's a mirror bug or something else. It just seems kind of weird. It's not behaving as I expected. All right, so I have it set to 12 now. So as I'm moving closer, where's the pet? Right there. Yeah, so my best guess is that their checker might be broken, because that should be triggering at 12 units, but it's not. So I think their stuff is broken, because it worked at 50 units, right? But it's not working at 12 units. So what's going on? Let me see something real quick. Let me see if I have one of my assets package here, and I'm going to import my own stuff real quick and just see what's, maybe if that fixes it. I only want the fax proximity checker, so let's import that. Boy, that is weird, huh? Don't you hate it when you expect things to do one thing and then suddenly they don't? All right, so mine is going to be set to a range of 12. and I'm going to make a new build with my component on it. And I'm either going to be right or really embarrassed. What is your money on? So let's find out. All right, so I'm going to look at the object. I'm going to highlight just so I know where it's at. Oh, look at that, it's working. So you can see now that it is working at the proper range. Therefore, mirror's component is broken. So which brings me back to my previous statement is I'm not going to cover the spatial hashing because it hasn't been field tested. And if their old component doesn't work, that gives me very little faith in their new component. I hate to say it, but that's just the truth. But mine is working very quickly and very well. So let's go ahead and exit play mode, and I'm going to close out the build. So that's all there is really to the proximity checker, and I'm just going to keep mine on here because there's a broken, embarrassing. So I'm going to talk about mine real quick. I have the continuous setting, which basically means it will check for distance very regularly. That's the general behavior of it. Without this check, you can update it whenever you want manually. Local player only will only check against the local player object, whereas if that's if it's ticked. If it's unticked, it'll check against all player-owned objects. And you have the visibility range, which is the same as what I said, and then the force hidden, which is the same as what I said. Now, there's a variety of proximity checkers, and I'm going to actually open the build one more time, actually 2 more times, and I just want to show you something. Oh, it's really tiny. That's the wrong build. Let me make a new build. That is a different project I was working on. I was only using it for server builds, so I didn't need a big old build size. All right, so I'm gonna make this the server. Actually, I'll just make the editor the server. Why not? Doesn't really matter. All right, so the editor is the server. Here's a client. Here's the client. All right, the only downside to this is I don't actually know where I'm looking at. I might have to I might have to go to my server and just take a peek here because I think I'm looking the wrong way. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and move that over, and let's move this guy looking the same direction. All right, so we know the object's there, and it's hidden on the server automatically because there's no reason the server needs to draw the renderer. The proximity range is 12, so it's right about here. Now I'm going to show you, you know that it's working with one client, right? But I'm going to show you that when I move in one of the clients, which is the right one it seems, that as they get closer, they see the object. But if you look at the other one, they don't see the object because they're not in range. Now when this moves into range, you can then see the object. And you can see it happens instantly. That's just a feature of mine. The mirror one is actually slower. It doesn't update immediately. Mine, however, does. So that's essentially the gist of the proximity checker. It's very straightforward, very easy to use. There's another type of checker now. They have the scene checker, network scene checker, and basically how this one works is it will only display the object if the clients are in the same scene. One very important thing you should know is that you cannot stack checker types. So you can't have a proximity checker and a scene checker at the same time. Now, I know this is going to sound like I'm pitching my stuff a lot, and I kind of am. But in my Flex Scene Manager project, you actually can stack them, kind of. It has the option to, basically the scene checker has the option to do both. So it's, in that case, you can have it based on scene and distance in that scene because someone had pointed out that they needed that and it made sense to me. So I added it in. Now, as I said, the network scene checker will only show the object if the objects are in that scene. And right now, this is the gameplay scene. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a new build here. And I'm going to run this. I'm going to make a new build a server. It's off on the other screen. It's not really important. You can see that I can see the object right away, of course. I don't have another scene set up to basically show you that this is true. So you're just going to have to take my word on it, I guess. So I could set up another scene, but that's going to be a bit of work. And then I could spawn the player in the second scene and this wouldn't be visible because the pet is in gameplay scene, and if my player was in a different scene, I wouldn't be able to see it. So you're just gonna have to trust me on that. I'm not going to demonstrate it. However, I will open up the network scene checker code and show you. Okay, so if I look at this, and if you see an update, it's basically saying if the scene hasn't changed, then exit the method. However, if the scene has changed, then it essentially rebuilds the object so it's visible to whatever's in that scene. Whenever a new object is added to the server, I believe one of these is called, I believe it's this one right here. And as you can see, this one compares if that object is in the same scene, and if so, it will add it to the checker. So that just validates what I told you. Now there is another visibility checker component, and that one is the match checker component. I don't offer one of these. I don't really find it very useful, honestly, but I'll explain how it works nonetheless. Basically, the match checker component is just like the scene checker component, except the difference is it's not automatically managed by the checker, I suppose. So, for example, the scene checker component will show you the object if you're in the same scene of it. However, the match checker component will work only if you're in the same match as what's on the checker. But the thing is the match is kind of like a made up thing. You have to set your own match identifiers and things like that. So the match is a GUID type, and basically what you would do is you would just get the component. Let's say if I had this, I can actually demonstrate pretty easily, I believe. So let me just go ahead and make a quick script here. I'm gonna make a new folder. Proximity, or sorry, visibilities. It's hard to see if I'm spelling this right because my monitor is 1440, so that 1080 text is kind of a little smudged looking. But let's say set match checker. So this is just going to be a new script that will run on Awake, I suppose. Actually, I'm going to do this on start server. So let me make this a network behavior. And I will explain what I'm doing in just a moment. Okay, override on start server, because you got to keep in mind that these things have to run on the server. The visibility stuff is done on the server. It's not done by the clients. So on start server, and I'm going to do, actually let me make a public GUID. Match ID. This is going to be the match that I'm going to assign an object to. So what I'll do is I'll get the network match checker, and I'll just call it nc equals get component network match checker, and I'm going to do nc dot match ID equals match ID. So that will assign the match ID as soon as the server starts this object, because like I said, the server has to be the one setting the match IDs. So let's go to my pet, and let's go ahead and add the set match checker script. And where is my public variable? Okay, so this type isn't serializable, I'm guessing. So let's just try and change that to an int. And now it's like, well, you can't convert an int to a match ID. And why the heck they use this, I don't know. Because, let me just check something real quick. Yeah, I don't know why they actually use a GUID, because that seems really excessive. I mean, you can use like a U short, for example, and that would allow you to have over 65,000 matches on one server. The GUID is extremely excessive. Bad design in my opinion, but maybe they know something I don't. So let me just look up something real quick. Okay. So I'm going to first thank Stack Overflow for this chunk of code here. And I'm gonna just do copy and paste that, and basically it converts an int to a GUID. So thank you Stack Overflow and Google for your greatness and support in my work. I mean, that's just part of being a programmer, is if you don't know the answer, Google it. As long as you understand what's going on. I do understand this code, so I'm not really ashamed of doing that because it's just part of the workflow. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, so let's try this. Let's take a look at this again. All right, so now I can see my match ID. I'm going to set it to 1 on the pet, and I'm gonna go to the player where I need to add the same script. Set match checker, and I'm gonna change this to 2. Let's go ahead and make a new build. And if I'm losing anybody, please let me know. Feel free to absolutely say something. All right, so again, starting this as server, pulling my build over here, client. Oh, there was an error. What is not set to an instance? Huh. I think I'm just trying to figure out where this error is starting from. 13, line 13. By the way, reading your errors is extremely beneficial. So this is a reference not set, so that's a null reference exception, and I can see that the last thing that triggered it on my end is line 13, which is this. That means the network match checker is null. I might have forgotten to add it to my player. I'm almost certain I did. So let me just take another look here. Yeah, I forgot to add it to my player. All right, added it to my player. Let's try this one more time. Hey, Seven, how's it going? All right, take 2. Server started, client joined, and there's no more proximity checker on here. So I know that I know it's not gonna randomly pop up when I'm in range. Now the object's still invisible to my player, but as I move close, you can see that I can see it. That is because I have on, like I said, if you have ownership of an object, you'll see it regardless of the checker. And it looks like there's a little bug here. This isn't really a bug in my code per se. This is throwing a null exception because the move to target is null, I'm guessing. And that's because, yeah, so the pet combat is null. I don't know. Let me just check something. Pet combat, get component on start server. What happened to my pet combat script? It just disappeared. Well, that's weird, right? Okay, so I put the pet combat script back on there. I don't know what happened. Oh, I can see it was removed here. Maybe I just did something dumb. It's entirely possible. All right, so that's back on there. Ignore the error, it's not related. So we know that I didn't see the object because it was in a different match, right? Let's go ahead and open up the build again. Just gonna drag it back over here. If you remember, I set my player to match ID 2 just to refresh. If I go back to my player, my match checker is setting the match ID to 2. And again, that code is very simple right here. This is the match ID I want to set it to. I just get the network match checker and then set the match ID to that value. The pet in the scene is running the same script, except I'm setting it to match ID 1. So now if I change that to 2 on the server, because it's a server driven, you gotta remember that, and I click server only, and then if I join my client, I don't know what just happened there. I think something broke. I don't think it liked it. I'm gonna try a rebuild real quick. All right, so I dropped my player back in with a new build, and you can see that I can see the object because they are now in the same scene. Therefore, the network match checker is clearly working. So that basically sums it up for visibility. And this was apparently going to be a really short stream, and I kind of knew it was going to be a short stream. If you are interested in scene management and an improved scene checker, because the mirror scene checker is very limited, you can only see one scene at a time. So like if you're in multiple scenes, you can only see objects in one scene, and that's not really great. And like I said, plus you can't stack checkers. So if you're having a hard time with scene management, with networking specifically, I would absolutely check out my Flex Scene Manager script. There's a preview video. It's actually, I call it a project, but it is drag and drop, and it is fantastic. And I'm not just saying that to, you know, to give myself a good, you know, feel good. It's actually really good, and a lot of people have been using it with, you know, great success. I won't be covering how to get a PC IP for testing on Android. I assume well, I can give you a hint, I suppose. I'm not going to go in detail though, but basically if you just go to like Google and you type in what is my IP, and that will give you your IP, assuming you're looking to connect over the internet. As far as if you want to make a game in Mirror versus waiting for the new networking solution by Unity, that's your call. I don't want to say, because I don't know how long it's going to be until Unity releases that, and there's like no news on it. So it could be a few months, or it could be a year and a half, etc. I don't know. So you're going to have to make your own call. If you want the experience, I would just start with Mirror, and you could always convert it over later if you want. I don't really have anything else to cover. So does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna go ahead and give this another minute or so, just see if anybody has questions. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and link my Discord if you are interested in joining. If you are interested in any of my Patreon content, it's all on that one Trello link. You can get to all of it from there. I have a lot of stuff, so feel free to take a peek. There's my Discord. You're welcome to drop in, chit chat, whatever. Just be sure to read the rules first. And thanks for joining. Like I said, if you want to see more, throw me some suggestions. I'm not a mind reader. Let me know what you want. All right, take care. Have a great rest of your day.